kalt and welcome to Pandora. In June 2009, the mobile developer Kabam confirmed they were working on a mobile MMO set in the Avatar universe. 3 years later, the title of this game was confirmed as Avatar Pandora Rising, and saw a teaser site open to advertise the game. Since then, it has gone on to be acquired by another developer, Scopely, and has had soft launches in several countries including Canada, New Zealand, the Philippines, and a large percentage of Scandinavia. However, for the most part, the game is still unavailable for most of the world, and remains a coming soon project, even on its official website. Despite its turbulent development and seemingly postponed release, a lot of details and information has still been made available, thanks to those who are still able to play it. One of the biggest surprises for the Avatar universe is its inclusion of characters in the game called Commanders from all across the franchise's history so far. While this is a fun feature to include, it does put the game at odds with the rest of the established timeline, especially when early marketing material for the game set it up to be laying the groundwork for the next several films. Today I'm going to take a look and see whether or not it could be considered canon and fit somewhere into the Avatar timeline. The first thing to look at is the game's overall premise. You as a player take command of either the RDA or the Na'vi in a battle for resources on the planet and building up your base to gain control of sacred sites in that region. While no concrete storyline has been established yet, its full release could see one implemented, but based on the premise alone, the game falls into the bracket of several years, either before, during, or after the original film, given how the main driving force of the first film's conflict was the battle for resources. The intro cutscene to the game sheds more light on the conflict, and seems to imply it's set during the First War, when the race to find Unobtainium was at its most fierce. The absence of any of the main cast from the opening seems to imply it's either before the events of the film, or in a separate theatre of war than what we were shown. One of the biggest factors to place this game before the film is the appearances of characters such as Mars Quaritch and Lyle Wainfleet, who are playable commanders and seen defending mining operations for the RDA if you play as the Na'vi faction. While we know that both of these characters will somehow be appearing in the second Avatar film, despite their deaths during the assault on the Tree of Souls, the comic book The Next Shadow has made it clear that it's something we'll see happen during that film and not necessarily before, especially not in a mobile game that most people won't even play. So it seems the game takes place before the film, which would work except for the fact that both Jake as a Na'vi and Neytiri appear in the game as playable commanders for the Na'vi faction. This would then place the game after the events of the film, after Jake has become a Na'vi. This confusion is only compounded by the fact that one of the main commanders for the RDA is Catherine Hale, a character created for the game, but has since gone on to appear in The Next Shadow, a comic book series taking place directly after the film, and showing her trying to continue mining activities, which is her main goal in the game. Plus, the original intent of the game was to be a launching point for the sequels, which only confounds the fact that this was supposed to take place after the film. To make matters worse, the game also features commanders who shouldn't even be alive at this point in the timeline. Characters like Valkyrie and Opal appear, who aren't seen on Pandora for another century, when they would be helping the efforts of the Alpha Centauri's expeditions in healing the planet. See my World of Avatar video for more information. Yet the commander bios still reference all that storytelling as if it's happening in the present. In short, the game is a mess of different elements of the Avatar universe, and for that reason I very much believe it shouldn't be considered as canon for the timeline. Now, this might change upon the game's full release if they decide to implement a storyline to it, but for now it can't possibly exist alongside the other elements of the franchise. But that got me thinking, is there a way it ever could be integrated into the timeline in the future? Well, one way that I see it is if the whole game was an in-universe training simulator for new RDA recruits to Pandora. That way, it would be set after the first film, but still include characters who are canonically dead. Not only would this allow for even more new commanders to be added to the game from all corners of the universe, but it could serve as a great prelude to the RDA's next attempts to control the planet, which we will no doubt see in Avatar 2. Another way it could be integrated was to have it set in an alternative timeline, one where those characters didn't die in the film, and in fact the war never ended on Pandora, leading to this all-out struggle for the sacred sites across the planet that we see in the game. It would also mean that characters from the future, like Valkyrie, could appear as alternative versions of themselves. Either way, the game, for me, isn't canon in any form, and really acts more like a highlight reel of Avatar's universe and lore. I hope that maybe in the future this could change, if it ever gets a full release, and despite my gripes with its place on the timeline, I'm still very much looking forward to playing it, as it seems to be a fun-looking mobile game if nothing else. But what do you think? Have you been lucky enough to play it yet? Do you think it could be canon? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. But until then, hej alvaj, giavame.